it's that time of year when people start thinking about gifts and things they can give to others that they like. And everybody wants to give a gift that's going to be well received and something that they don't already have. So today we're going to look at some of the new products that are out there for home canning, and maybe if you've got a home canner on your list, one of these things may fit the bill, but I want to talk about whether or not they are good ideas. So a lot of these things are from the same company. We're not promoting that company. We just happen to have some of their things. So the first one is the most expensive. It's about $300. It's an automatic home canning system. It looks like it would be terrific. It uses a lot less water than a traditional boiling water canner would, about 85% less. It uses less energy to go through the process. It automatically adjusts for altitude so that if you have somebody in your family who you know loves to can, but you can't get them to adjust for altitude, which is a safety factor because things that are under process may in fact be unsafe. With the kinds of things that would go in here, however, they're just more apt to spoil sooner. So it does all of those things for you automatically. You can see it's got buttons on the front. You fill it up to the appropriate level with water. You pick which product you're canning, and then you click start, and then you're good to go. It will process the food appropriately for the correct length of time. The disadvantage, however, is that it's limited in the recipes that it will do. It does not operate the same way that a regular boiling water canner does, and it's only appropriately used for foods that would go in there. So jams, jellies, pickles, some fruits could go in here, but only if the company has provided you a recipe to do so. Some of them require that you use the mixes that come with it, some don't. So if this is not going to let you do what you want to do, also only cans 4-quart jars at a time, and only 3-quart jars or 4-pint jars. So it's limited in its use. If it does what you want it to do, it doesn't take up the stove, it doesn't heat up the house, it uses less energy. You can go from one batch directly to another, there's no cool down time. But if it's not the jar of salsa that you want, then it's not the appropriate product for the person that you're looking at. So think it through, all the way through where you're going to store it, is it going to do what you want it to do, all those things. The next one is somewhere in between it. I don't have an example of it, but it's an automatic home canning system that only does boiling water canner in the traditional way. So it's about the same size as this, but it can can all of the recipes that you normally would. It's about 21 quarts, so it will can 7-quart jars. The advantage to that one, if you have somebody who's got a range that is not good with a home canner because it's a glass top, or the manufacturer has said don't use this particular range to do canning, then this one doesn't sit on the range. It's an electric plug-in. There's a dial you turn to adjust the heat. It is heavy. You do use the same amount of water. It uses the same amount of time. But they built a spout in on the side, like a coffee urn, so that if you get it close to the sink, you can just depress that lever and it will drain into the sink. Now this could be a big advantage for some folks as they get older, because those canners, moving them from the stove to the sink to drain them, they're really heavy, and the idea of taking one pot full or bowl full of water to the sink at a time also is more risk that you're going to spill some hot water or just spill water as you go from one place to another. So that one, a little bit less expensive. It's about $150. Could be something that does match up with what you do if you've got some place to store it. It also can do multiple things. The first one I talked about only does canning and only those recipes that I mentioned. The second one, you could make a stock or a broth. You could do beverages in it. You could make up a big pot of cider in it, hot cider, and serve that over the holidays too. So it's fairly flexible. This next one is a jam and jelly maker, and it actually only stirs. That's its primary function. So it comes with a glass lid, and then it's got the paddles that go in it. It makes jam and jellies, again, only the recipes that they provide you, but you simply pick what you're going to make and then pick enter, and it automatically stirs for you, and it also frees your range. So it will take 21 minutes for one and probably about 25 minutes for the other. And as I said, it clears up your range. It does some recipes that aren't in other things. So my major concern with all of these is the expense. This one's only about $113, but if you know somebody that has one and you can try it out beforehand, then you know if it's something you're going to want to use more than once. The issue is if you try it and you don't like it, then those few jars that you've canned end up being very expensive jars of jam, jelly, or salsa, whatever you're looking at. There are some less expensive things out there, so let's go take a look at some of those. One of the new things that's out for the last few years, and they come in different colors, are these jars. And you can see that this is the purple jar. They have a bit of an historic context to them, and so that's sort of a nostalgia thing. The problem with them, and you can see what I've done here, is these jars of carrots were canned on the same day. The issue is not that the jars are not safe. The issue is that you can't really tell what the quality of the product inside the jar is, nor can you necessarily see if there are safety issues developing inside those jars. They also cost twice as much as a clear jar, so those are some things to think about. They still are great for other things, like if you're giving away gifts with a mix of dry mix for brownies or muffins or something like that, then those kinds of jars are great. You can stack them up. They also, you can purchase matching or contrasting flats and screw bands, so that if you want to use clear jars, you could still get these. Again, they cost twice as much as the traditional ones. One of the things that people often ask me is, where are the gold ones? And it's just not in fashion right now. Just like orange may be the color this year, green may be the color next year in fashion. Well, gold is not the color that's in fashion. They've gone to more of a brass and a silver to match the other things in people's kitchens. So give up looking on gold right now, but keep your eyes open, it'll probably come back. Another thing, different shapes of jars. This is a nice little flat one, works great for jams or jellies, probably not if you're canning vegetables because of the 1-inch headspace that you'd need to leave on there. Another thing, if you're giving jars, consider the type of jar. There are jars now that don't have any raised pattern on them. You can see on this one there's raised numbering, there's raised writing. Sometimes it's just a pattern. Those we know are jars made for home canning. There are some that are made for home canning that don't have that. However, if you get one of those, you may not know next year that this is in fact a canning jar, and you may think it's an old mayonnaise jar and not want to use it. Also, many fairs no longer accept them. They also don't accept the color when products come in. Lots of other kinds of products are out there as well. This is something that I have found quite useful. It's a jar holder, so that when the jar is hot, you can get a grip on the jar as you tighten the flat down or with a screw band. Whoops, over the edge. A couple other things that you may want to think about are canning guides. This one you can either purchase from the National Center for Home Food Preservation, or you can get it online. So the cheapest gift, if you have internet access or the person you're giving to does, is simply to give them that web address. A couple of other things. This book has been around for a long time, the Ball Blue book. This is the edition prior to the newest one. This is the newest one. Usually I tell folks when the new one comes out, throw the old one away. However, this is just an expansion. There's nothing wrong with this one, so if they already have this one, they don't need to throw it away. You may still want to update it. It's time to add the pectin, I believe, in the jelly maker. There are also some more in-depth books that you may be interested in. Cost, of course, goes up a little, but it's Christmas. I hope you'll think about some of these things for the people on your gift-giving list. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.